What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? We are going to talk about the first preseason game of the 2023 season. Here in just a minute, we're going to have Quentin on. We're going to talk about the offense, the defense, and everything in between. We will see you guys in just a few minutes. What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? You're on another episode of Chiefs Focus Live, post-pregame show, first post-pregame show of the 2023 season. We got Quentin. What's up, my man?
Hey, like real-ish football, you know?
Yeah, kind of ish.
Like,
I mean, it's ish. It's an ishes.
Real-ish is
It
what
wasn't
I'm
delicious, but it was ishes. I
Yeah.
mean, you know. What do you want to get into first? Offense, defense. What do you think?
Actually, I have more positive things to say about the defense.
Yeah.
So we can start there, and then we can go to the offense.
Sounds good to me. I saw some positives with the defense.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I've had a couple of calls from some sports guys, a couple of broadcasters, a few others asking, talking about Chris Jones and thinking nobody could fill his shoes. One of the detriments towards a player in one of the conversations with Danny Shelton, that he was a big guy, but he couldn't get in the backfield. He did get in the backfield.
Yeah, I got a sack.
He got a sack. He held the line. He may not be the fastest guy, but I mean, when you've got 80-inch shoulders, it's pretty hard to be that quick. But he did get around, and he moved, and he did pretty well. So I can't complain about that so much. What's your thoughts on the defensive line right now?
Well, Danny Shelton was definitely on my list. I wanted to give a quick shout-out first to Brian Cook, who was wearing 2 mouth guards.
Yeah, he was.
Neither one was being used, but he had 2 of them. So
well,
I don't know what that
says.
I don't know what that says about him or the Chiefs staff, but congratulations. That was so weird why he had a yellow and a red mouth guard hanging off of his face mask, but he wasn't using either mouth guard.
Hey, man, it's a fashion statement.
I guess so.
I mean, you gotta give the guy something.
Okay, on a more serious note, though, my defensive notes actually comes a lot from the linebacker core. A lot of good plays from the linebacker core. Leo Chenal showed up.
Yes, he did.
He was looking really good. He made it into the backfield a couple of times. I don't think he ended up with a sack, but Drew Tranquill did. He ended of the day, he was flying all over the field. I think I saw more Drew Tranquill than a lot. I counted down that he had 5 tackles in the game, which was just, I mean, flying around the football field. He could definitely end up being one of the more underrated signings from the offseason. I know we've talked about that a little bit during this offseason, coming from the Chargers and just making an impact early on, but we'll see. It's the first preseason game. And then that Cole, I'm going to mess up his name, Christensen?
Yeah.
We'll go with that. Also, another linebacker flying around the football field. So your linebacker is, generally speaking, where you want to see a lot of your tackles coming from, just because that means guys aren't getting behind you.
Exactly.
So good job on the linebacker core, because there wasn't a ton of pressure throughout the whole game, but your linebackers were able to clean up a lot of the mess along the defensive line. So that's a good sign, at least.
Yeah, I agree. They all look good as far as the linebackers are concerned. You mentioned something on Twitter. It was kind of funny too about the some of the calls from the refs, and it was true. I mean, look, Mahomes clearly had the first down. There was a couple of, bad calls on both sides. It wasn't just against us. I mean, there were some bad calls against the Saints as well.
It's their preseason too, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, even though those guys are extremely tenured in the NFL, that was that group, that one group that is left, I think, in the NFL of aging refs that I don't know. You wouldn't have expected it that quickly, but it happened. So it is what it is. I felt like the defense kind of started off a little stagnant, but as they kind of gelled and got their groove and different players were rotated in and out, which that's what preseason's for, you get to see who your guys are that are going to make a splash. And we had some of those guys that did it. Mike Edwards is one of them. Philip alluded to it right here. It looks like he's the best safety on the Chiefs. He does look very good. He was all over the place. He kept his assignments. When he needed to jump off his assignments, he did it, and he did it at the right time because he was able to read the play. I gotta give it to him. The guy was playing like an all-star. I mean, he really was. He was just really putting it on today.
Yeah, and I think part of that, the communication from the second, third strings on the defensive side of the ball was really good today. You saw guys, they were pointing around, guys were moving with the shifts. Yep. The defense was communicating very well, which is surprising because a lot of these back-end guys are new to the system. They're new to the team. So to see how well they're communicating literally in the first preseason game, that speaks a lot to the coaching and how these guys are picking up the system. So it's Absolutely. A good point to bring up just how well some of these guys did today, because the communication was off the charts for me.
It really was. I really, like I said, I mean, it just took a little time for them to gel at the beginning of the game. And a lot of that was just, you had your starters in for a couple of series, and they don't really do a whole lot, when it comes to preseason. But then, you got your guys out there that are trying to make this team. And some of them you could tell really paid attention, and some that maybe didn't so much. But this is going to be a hard decision for Andy Reid and the coaching staff.
Always is, man.
Yeah, this is a tough year, again, for them because they scout so well and they bring in so many talented, whether it be undrafted free agents or free agents anyway. They just bring in a lot of talent that fit well within our scheme. This is the perfect time for us to find out who is and who isn't going to make this team. I see a lot of talent on that defense that is very underrated. And I think next week we're going to see a little bit more of the starters, but we're also going to see a lot more of certain players that they want a second look at. They want to see if these guys are going to make this team, if they can handle this roster. It's going to be tough. There's no doubt about it. I was pretty impressed with the way they, like you said, the second, third, fourth string guys came out and participated. They were all over the place. They stuck with their assignments when they needed to. They jumped off when they didn't need to, but they jumped off at the right time. There's a difference between jumping off your assignment just because you think you see something. But you have to be able to read very well to jump off your assignment at the right time before it gets, you get blown up. And these guys did that today. So I have to give them all credit for that. I mean, everybody did a great job. There was a guy, I actually hadn't known a lot about him. Halassi? Is that how you?
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
A great game. I mean, for all intents and purposes, he had a very good game. When he was out there, he was playing well. And I can't complain about his productivity out there. He had a pick.
A great pick, by the way.
Pick, yeah.
That was an athletic play.
It really was. He had a few batted passes. He kept, people in check. I don't know. I like him a lot. It's those guys like that you kind of wonder how do you cut somebody like that? Because they got the potential, they got the talent. Yeah, we don't know who he is, but that doesn't really mean a whole lot. So it's going to be tough. I like the way that kid plays. He's got a lot of intensity. So, by the way, Nick Jones fractured some fingers. Thank you, Philip. So we don't know what's going to happen with him, but he fractured several fingers, not just a couple, but several. So to me, when you break more than 1-2 fingers, that's usually, I would just say broken hand, but is what it is. That can keep him out for a little while. So that could,
we'll be fine.
Yeah. Halassi may be that guy. You just don't know. He did make a name for himself today, that's for sure. If he gets cut, he's going to get picked up somewhere. If for some reason we decide to cut him and he doesn't end up on our practice squad. So, what else you got about the defense?
The one person, I guess the last person that I want to talk about is Chamarri Conner.
Oh,
he had a sack today. Like I've been saying, I think he is going to take over that Snead role. That guy that comes off the edge, can play safety / corner. So they used him in that hybrid role. He was able to get a sack. We saw him in coverage today. So he was used sort of all over the backfield, playing multiple positions. He had a pass defended. So I think we're going to see more Chamarri Conner. Just a guy that everybody needs to keep a lookout for, because I think that if the Chiefs can have him play that role and let Snead walk at the end of the year, I think that's the way they're going to go to save some money. Because if you can save yourself, $12 to $16 million and let Snead walk, the Chiefs are going to do it. Yeah. And Chamarri Conner's the guy that would allow the Chiefs to do it.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the offense really quick. So Richie James made it look easy.
He did.
Look, man.
One of my notes here.
I will say this. There was a lot of rhetoric about him coming into this team. Nobody knew who he was, didn't think he was going to be any good, blah, blah, blah. He made it look extremely easy on some extremely tough catches. Back to back, boom, boom, touchdown, just on top of things. Ran his routes perfectly well. Very strong guy. I can't say enough about this kid. Mm-hmm. He came in today with the mindset that he wanted to be that number 1, number 2 wide receiver. That's how he came in, and that's really what he played like. I have to say it. He played like he was a number 1, number 2 wide receiver.
Yeah.
I got to give him all the credit in the world. He did a great job. What do you think about him?
I think you're absolutely right. I think this guy could be a 500-yard receiver in the offense. I truly think that. He's a guy that I think is going to have a couple of really good games, and he's just going to be there in the offense. I think some people are going to forget sort of that he exists, because I don't know if he's going to have that like one super dominant game, but he's going to get 50 yards here, 65 yards there, and he's going to build up a good resume over the season of his production. So I think this is the kind of production we might see from Richie James for the entire season. He had 2 receptions for 44 yards, that one 43-yard reception. So this is the sort of production that I think that you could see from Richie James all season. And that is not a knock on Richie James. That is a solid player. Every team needs a guy like Richie James, Absolutely. A dependable guy, a veteran guy that can run routes to be able to get some of those. That was not an easy pass to catch.
No.
Both of them. That deep ball he had to stretch out for, and that touchdown that he caught, the way he had to contort his body to catch that, phenomenal. So Richie James is a guy that I think is going to be probably, if I was going to put a number on it, I would probably say he's like the 3rd or 4th wide receiver in the offense by the end of the season. But quality guy, I'm happy. He's going to be a good pickup by the end of the season when we look back at the 2023 NFL season.
I absolutely agree. That deep ball, I got to tell you, that was some stuff you see from your elite wide receivers in the league.
He looked like Sammy Watkins.
He did look like Sammy Watkins, a healthy, strong a lot stronger Sammy Watkins, but he looked like Sammy Watkins. He was able to reach around, get the ball. He's a great player. And look, that touchdown pass, I don't know if anybody noticed, but that could have easily been intercepted. It was actually brushed by a defender's hand, and that's why he had to contort his body the way he did to catch it. I got to give him all the credit in the world. He came
and
out.
Not every
here
ball is
with,
going to be perfect. You got to be able to catch the balls in your area.
Exactly. He did a great job. I got to give it to him. He came out with intensity, and he really wants to be. He wants to be a part of this team, and that's what we like to see.
Exactly.
Who else do we have? We had.
I'm going to go through some of the receivers here because a lot of the receivers. I mean, if you remember what I said earlier in the week, I was questioning how much we're going to be able to get from the wide receiver group today. Mm-hmm. And I was totally wrong about what I said. I was like, I'm not sure what we're going to be able to pull away because it's preseason and you've got young corners out there from the Saints. But I think there were some plays that I think can really show just a hint of what guys might be able to be in terms of their route running and some of the guys that were just making catches that are not easy to make, like Richie James. The guy I want to talk about next is Rashee Rice. Specifically, I want to talk about his vision. That first catch that he got, just a little flat route, little screen route, but the ability to just like make guys miss and to just zoom through the defense to get extra yardage. He got about 8 extra yards on that play.
Yeah.
That was a dead play, but he was able to make something out of nothing. And you want to get involved in a Chiefs Andy Reid led offense, that's the kind of stuff that you get. And Rashee Rice coming out, having good vision, being strong and quick. All right, Rashee Rice, I see you.
Yeah. I mean, he stepped up big time. And I got to say, there was a couple of times, I'm sure everybody watched the game, but there was a couple of times he was overthrown. There was one particular pass that most guys wouldn't have been able to catch, and he did. So he has proven to me, just in the short period of time that he was here, that he's picking up the playbook very well. He does have the tangibles to play on this football team, and I doubt very seriously if we see him anywhere but on the 53-man roster. He's just that guy. We knew that talking about this in the offseason. We knew that he was going to be good. Then we watched him in training camp, and he just seemed to be getting better. I would, if I was anybody in the AFC right now, I would be a little bit worried about what they've seen out of our second and third string and fourth string wide receivers today. Because if that's how good they are coming into this rookie, especially a rookie camp, and coming into a preseason game, playing with quarterbacks that really weren't that great to start off with, and still being able to put up the yards, make the catches, run the routes, do everything they were supposed to do, I'd be a little bit nervous if I was everybody else. And he's one of those guys that makes me nervous. He would make me nervous if I was any other football team. By the way, let's bring up our man Justin Ross real quick. And I have to bring him up for 2 reasons. One, you weren't big on him. But 2, he was overthrown, I think, 4 times in this game. Just errant passes. Really, no one would have been able to make the catches. But when he did, he made a phenomenal catch. That ball was also tipped, and he caught that ball, scored. We have a group of young wide receivers. With Justin Ross looks like he was never injured. It looks like he hasn't stopped playing football. I am extremely excited to see him throughout the season. There's no possibility he doesn't make this roster unless he absolutely just shits the bed next week.
Yeah,
which I don't see that happening.
I think I'm convinced now they're going to carry 7 wide receivers. Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about it for a few weeks now that they're going to carry 7, but I think today solidified that. Just seeing how many guys they put out there and the film that all these guys put out there, they're carrying 7 wide receivers. Justin Ross is probably going to be 7 when the season starts. But yeah, the guy made a good play. That touchdown pass, he was wide open over the middle of the field. That was a good call on some zone coverage. Found the empty spot of the zone. Good day by Justin Ross. 2 catches, 29 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah.
That's just, that's the way that it is. Look, nobody's gonna have an amazing stat day in preseason because you're just not taking that many snaps. The guy that led the team in yards today was Nico Ramingo, which
Hey, by the way, we got to bring him up.
He's
Whew.
the next guy that I wanted to talk about. But
Let's do it.
just finish up with Justin Ross.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah.
good. Nothing to blow your mind about. But context. He hasn't played football in over a year. It's a good way to start.
Yeah, I'd say so. This kind of solidifies the fact. When they signed him, which everybody was surprised that they did, given the fact that he had the neck injury and he had the boot on his foot. Everybody said, why did they sign him? Why did they give him a contract? That's why. Because they knew, they had confidence in their medical staff and they had confidence in him. And to me, that says it just screams stability within an organization when you have that much confidence in a player that you will sign them immediately while they're still recovering, wearing a boot. I'm excited for his season. I'm excited. I'm happy for him too. I mean, that's the thing that I think that really kind of sums up my synopsis of him is that I'm happy for him because he was able to come back from that.
I don't know if he helped his case today. I doubt he didn't hurt it. And that's more important because when you are sort of expected to make the roster, you can't really help yourself at this point. But he definitely could have hurt it, and he didn't. So
he did not.
Good for him.
Yep.
And seriously, I know. I go out after Ross, but it's all fun and games.
I know.
I think he's going to make the roster now. So that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring up Ramingo. Holy crap.
Dude, now look, obviously my opinion's a little, you could say my opinion's a little biased here because I've been following him for a while. But I didn't realize, how when I talked about him getting on this roster, I mostly was talking about him being a special team or a punt returner, and that was pretty much it. Yeah. But they used him heavy in the offense in the passing game. Like I said, leading receiver, 71 yards. He had that big 24-yard reception. He had the most targets on the team with 6. So they used him, relatively speaking, heavy in the offense today. He was out there for a good amount of time. Good for Nico. For those of you that don't know, he was a undrafted free agent from Fresno State. Just a guy that, was off the radar of every team, and we'll see what happens there. Now, I'm not going to tell you he's going to make this roster because that would just be insane for me to say they're going to carry 7 and then talk about how
and he'd be one of them,
7th and then somehow make Nico on the roster. But you want to talk about a guy that can make the practice squad and probably won't get stolen by another team. I think Ramingo can be that guy, and we'll see. Maybe he turns into the next Cornell Powell type where he's just sort of on the fringe of the roster for most of his career, but I can see him hanging around.
Yeah, I can too. And I can also see, look, there's a big difference between him and Cornell Powell. We watched Cornell Powell in preseason for 3 seasons now?
Yeah.
And he's never made a big splash like that. Ramingo made a splash today. If he comes out next week and they use him heavily, which that kind of gives you an idea that they're really looking into somehow keeping him on this roster or at least keeping him on the practice squad, that'll give you an indication of where this team thinks or what they think about him. Really quick, I don't know if anybody noticed, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire was used very heavily in the first quarter.
First 4 plays.
First 4 plays. He was actually in a little bit more than that. But there's a reason behind that. And they are trying to make a decision. They are really trying to figure out. And I knew this was going to happen. It was going to be Clyde, and then you're going to see Prince right after that. And that's exactly what you'd seen. Now, some people said Prince didn't do much. Some people said he did. I think he has all the tangibles to be a great player. He's not been in this system very long, so we can't knock him for anything that he did or didn't do today. But he's not made of glass. And that's going to be a huge difference. And there's one thing that I noticed with Clyde, and I don't know if you saw it. The last play that he was in, he got tackled on the sideline. And when he got back up, he wasn't walking completely correct. He didn't have any pep in his step, I should say. He almost looked like he felt every bit of that hit. If you're starting preseason off like that, it's not great. I'm just sorry, but it's not. I still don't think he's going to make this roster. I think next week is going to be the telling signs of where he's going to end up at. But I think the only way he makes this roster is if somebody gets hurt. I just don't see it happening. I'm sorry, but I don't have a lot of faith in him. I don't know why the Chiefs would either. He's been injured every year since he's been in the league. Every single season since he's been in the league. There's no upside to having him here if you're going to have him for 3 or 4 games. There's just no upside. Because he's not the Sammy Watkins that can make the difference in the playoffs. Because where was he at in the playoffs? He was injured. He wasn't here. He didn't play. When he was back to being healthy, he never saw the field. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. There's a reason behind that. So I feel like Prince has a lot of growing to do, but he can also be a very, very nice 1-2 punch with Pacheco. Given the right scenario with the right offensive line, he could be very good. What do you think of him?
I mean, look, I had a feeling that they were going to utilize him heavily. Why would you not, right? I'm not using the guy that's been in the yellow jersey all of training camp. I'm not using McKinnon because he's 31 years old, and I know what he is. So the next guy up is Clyde. So use him heavily. Use some Prince in there as well, and that's what they did. Yeah. I don't know. I still think he ends up on this roster by the start of the season. I just don't know where else he goes. I don't know what his trade value is, and I don't really think he has any, especially because there are still free agents out there that need to be signed. Kareem Hunt still needs to be signed. Dalvin Cook still needs to be signed. There are still some of these guys out here, so there's just not a ton of value out there for running backs in the trade market. And he knows your system, so he's your 3 on the roster, sort of a 2, kind of, because McKinnon has a sort of a specialty role. So, but the Chiefs are going to carry 3 running backs, possibly 4. I have a feeling, obviously I don't know any inside information or anything. I have a feeling that Jody Fortson ends up on the IR to start the season because of his shoulder injury, and he hasn't been used. He wasn't used today. So if you put him on the IR, you could sneak an extra running back or a wide receiver on your roster. That's just me sort of thinking out loud. I was talking with somebody about that yesterday, and it sort of came into my mind that that's a possibility. But other than that, I have nothing good or bad to say about him. He's going to keep getting used throughout the preseason.
Yeah. Philip said, I love seeing Blake Bell line up at fullback. He helped Prince get 5 yards on the run. He did.
That's a good transition into my next point. My negative of the game. Let me just smash my papers on here. I hate the Blake Bell play. Hate it. Stop doing this Blake Bell fullback quarterback sneak crap. I despise it. If you're going to do it, just line him up. Look, here's the thing. When the Eagles do the tush push, there's a threat that they're going to pass the ball. Okay? Yeah. So you can't exactly just sell out to stop the tush push quarterback sneak thing. You have to defend the outside. When Blake Bell comes in, you know that's what they're going to do because Blake Bell's not throwing the ball. So you can sell out for it, and when he's coming in motion and then sets back up at the quarterback, it makes it more difficult for your offensive line because the defensive line has a little bit more time to prepare for it so they can squeeze on in and block the 2 A gaps in between the center. Stop doing that crap. Just run an offensive play. You can do a like fullback dive. You could do a wide receiver, screen
little
or
screen or a dump
something.
off.
There are plenty of things you could do. Stop
a simple
doing
RPO
this.
could have fixed that problem right there. So
Stop doing this. What do they call the belldozer? Knock it off.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
Stop it.
I don't think Blake Bell is going to be on this roster. I don't know why I feel like this, but I feel like he's not going to make it very long during the season. There's another tight end that we have. Can't think of his name right now. Played a little bit in this game. That looked very good. Caught a pass. He actually had a penalty against him, but he did catch a pass. What is his name? Philip, you'll know his name. I can't think of it right now. You'll spit it out in a minute. I know you will. But he looked really good today. Noah Gray is Noah Gray. Look, man, this kid is just good all the way around. If for some reason Jody Fortson ends up on the IR, I would hate to see it happen because I think that's him. Thank you. Matt Bushman. That kid's good.
Yeah.
That kid is very good. He's got the tangibles. He just needs to get he needs to gel a little bit more and pick up the speed of the NFL. But I would hate to see Jody Fortson end up on the IR. I think he has all the tangibles and
I know, but his shoulder injury, and he's been out. They haven't talked about him at all during training camp.
They haven't.
They've been keeping him, and the quieter they are in an injury in camp, then the worse I believe it is.
Yeah, it drives me crazy to think that he would not make it, or be on the IR. This poor kid, not only through the injuries, but he had to deal with COVID, and nobody knew if he was going to be good enough, so they stuck him on the practice squad. Then he comes out and he makes some phenomenal catches when he's on the field, gets injured again, and now here he is with a shoulder injury. It just sucks that somebody of his size, his talent level, has to deal with that. It's not that he doesn't have a passion for the game like another player on our football team that likes fashion shows, but he just doesn't seem to be able to stay healthy. And I don't know if that's a conditioning issue or if it's just, it's just him. I don't know. I wish all the best for him. I hope he makes the team because he can make a difference on our football team. If he's healthy and he's out there, he can make a difference. I really like the kid. I know they signed Blake Bell, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to keep him. He is a great blocker. He will catch the ball when you need him to. He's been good with us, but he's that old traditional style of tight end that really just doesn't work so well in this NFL, so it's hard. But these running backs, getting back to the running backs, I don't know how you're going to make that decision until you get past next week. There's going to be some cuts, of course, in the next few days, but
no, they changed that rule a few years ago where it's all the cut days after the third preseason game.
Well, they've made some cuts already, so
right, but you don't have to. You don't have
to.
I
guess you don't have to. Yeah, you don't have to, but I think they might, simply because you can fill those spots with somebody else that may be sitting in the streets right now that you want to bring in. So, or that was undrafted and never picked up by anybody. So you might want, take those chances, bring somebody in for the next preseason game to see what they can do, see how they fit within the system, and then move forward. I don't know. But what else you got?
That's all I got. That's all my notes.
What did you think about special teams today?
That's fine. I mean, like I said, tackling was a little meh, but it's the first preseason game. I'm not expecting great open field tackling. Butker made all of his field goals. Tommy Townsend had a bad punt, but had some couple great punts. It's not a lot to get from that.
I mean, look, the Saints' best punter had a bad punt as well. And he averages about the same as Tommy Townsend does.
Very neutral on special teams.
Yeah. They were, a lot of new guys on the special team, just like there are throughout our entire football team. I feel like they're going to be better than they were last year because we've got guys that can really step up and fill the shoes of people that left, like Chris Lamones and players that were injured, things of that nature. I don't know if you guys noticed, but when when Lamone's when he was cut, it didn't help our special teams in any way. Real couple of guys got some questions. What do we think about our O-line? I think the starting O-line looked really good.
Starting O-line looked good. Once again, because other guys are getting rotated in and out, it's hard to tell. I want to know what an offensive line looks in the third quarter with 2 minutes left rather than the first quarter when all these guys are gassed up. I want to see when you're dog tired and you've been fighting a 350-pound man for an hour and a half now. What do you look like after then? But guys were communicating. They didn't get beat on any stunts or anything like that. But, we'll see. Definitely nothing bad to take away from it. And I think that's what you get out of preseason. I don't know how much positive you can really pull from the preseason. It's more, how much did you mess up? And I don't think they did.
And that's really what it all boils down to. And that goes for the entire team. This is not oh shit, we lost. It's all it is evaluation time. This is what you want to know before you get into week 1, before the season starts. You want to know who you can count on, who you want on this football team. And it's going to be difficult again this year as it was last year and the year before as far as cut down day comes, because there's a lot of talent on this football team. And God forbid that some of these guys that you absolutely have to release or you feel like you have to release in place of someone else goes to a division rival. So I do want to give a shout out really quick to Derek Carr. As much as I've given him shit over the last 9 years, I'm happy for him. I'm genuinely happy for him.
I'd like to congratulate him for beating Patrick Mahomes on the road for the first time.
Yeah, ever. Even though he only played 4 snaps. But regardless, I'm happy that he's where he's at. He's got a new start. He looks like he's very happy with and I feel like that team has got all the tangibles to be a very good football team. They got a really good defense. They've got an offense that moved down the field pretty quickly. They haven't had a good quarterback since Drew Brees. And Drew Brees, I'm talking about Drew Brees basically 2-3 years prior to his retirement. So I think they're a good football team, and I think they've got a lot going for him this year. And I'm actually happy for him. I'm glad he got away from that shit team that he's played for 9 years, and now his 8 years, I guess he played there, 9 years, and he's got a new leash on life, I guess, if you want to call it that. A new lease on life is always nice to have when you're an NFL player, and he finally got one. Colin Saunders looked pretty damn good today, and it really kind of pissed me off because I didn't want to see him go, but of course, money is part of the game, and I feel like he wanted to prove a point today, and he did. He looked really good. One thing I will say is Patrick Mahomes is the most hyped quarterback I have ever seen not playing a football game. That man absolutely loves preseason. I know he's chomping at the bit, wanting to play more than a series or two. It's killing him. But he was all up and down the sidelines. Every time somebody made a play, he was excited for him. It didn't matter if it was a guy that he knows is not going to make this roster or if it was somebody that definitely is going to make this roster. He was excited for everybody. I love him as our quarterback. It's just not just from his playing ability, because everybody knows what that is. He is just genuinely a happy, nice guy that cares about everyone. And that's something that you just don't get with 98% of quarterbacks in this league. You don't get that. You don't get somebody that really gives a shit. And he does. And that makes me happy to have him. Philip, I missed the Honey Badger too, but I got to say that I'm happier with Justin Reed. I feel like he has taken the reins. He's really been positive for the team, for the fans. He's constantly on Twitter, talking to the fans. I think, and it's not negative; it's always positive, and I like that in him. So I don't know, man. I got a feeling we're going to be a pretty good football team this year. I think we've got a legitimate shot to do everything that we did last year. I really do. We've replaced the production of a lot of players. And I know people may not see this yet, but you will. We've replaced the production of a lot of players. We carry 7 wide receivers. We're in good shape. It's that simple. One other shout out before we go. Mitch Holtis, my man.
30 years.
30
man.
years. 30 years with Kansas City. And I actually posted on Twitter today. I remember the first day I met him, and it was instant. I didn't even have a chance to say anything to him. He jumped right up. Hey, how you doing? Hey, man, I'm Mitch. Nice to meet you. And from that point on, he was the nicest guy ever. Still the nicest guy ever. Anybody that has anything negative to say about him, you're an idiot, because there's nothing negative about the man. He's not only in the Kansas Announcers Hall of Fame, he's in the Missouri Hall of Fame. He's going to be in the Ring of Honor. And I don't doubt that he somehow ends up in Canton, because he is that good. He's coined the phrase of pretty much everything that has to do. He coined the phrase Chiefs Kingdom. He coined that phrase. That was him that made that up. They didn't start using it until 2014, but it was him. He's the reason. He was extremely nice to my son. I can't say enough good about this man, and he is a true loyal Chiefs fan. He's just as excited today as he was 30 years ago when I sat in that press box next to him and watched him just jump for joy when anything good happened. And I'm so glad that he's been here for so long. And, I hope he lasts another, impossible, but another 30 years. It'd be great to see him here for at least another 10 to 12.
Yeah.
So
he had some big shoes to fill.
What's that?
Oh, he had some big shoes to fill when Kevin Harlan left.
Absolutely.
He's done a great job. So
absolutely. And I loved Kevin Harlan. He was a great guy. Still a great guy. Actually, I don't know if anybody saw the tweet that's on Twitter. He was announcing the Green Bay Cincinnati game, and he said, "Beautiful night." I don't know, beautiful night in Cincy, or no, in Green Bay, and then all of a sudden it panned over to a woman wearing basically a weird outfit that had great big giant cheese-colored boobs on it. And he was cracking up in the booth. I've never seen him laugh so hard, and he couldn't get through his sentence because he was laughing so hard. And that's just Kevin. I mean, he was always a cool guy, and Mitch is like that too. Mitch is that guy that really brings the energy. So he's just a great individual, and I'm glad he's here. So everybody needs to go on Twitter and thank the man for everything he's done for us for 30 years, because he is a building block in this culture that we have in Chiefs Kingdom. So that being said, all in all, I think this was a good visual of what we've got. We're going to have a better visual next week. And we'll definitely be talking to you on Tuesday, especially if there's any cut downs. Don't ask me about Chris Jones, because I'm not going to say any more. The last I heard, he was going to be here on Tuesday, this weekend, or by Tuesday. So that's all I can tell you. He has his own plane, so he can show up whenever he wants. Just so you know. So don't fret about Chris Jones showing up. He will show up. I feel like it's going to be around Tuesday when he does. Between now and Tuesday, I should say that. Anyway, we appreciate everybody for joining, and we will talk to you guys again on Tuesday. Make sure you check out our giveaway on Twitter, and we have another one coming up on Instagram. Peace out, everybody.